Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Tuesday, August 13th. Welcome to the Daily Bone Podcast. We discuss all things crypto market. That includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, meme coins, and NFTs. Today, we have a lot to discuss. We have to discuss Trump's return to Twitter and his interview with Elon Musk via X Spaces, Twitter Spaces. We need to discuss Ethereum's recent strength. I saw that last night. I was very surprised. It was good to see. And today's PPI data and how that could influence the market. And finally, we're going to be joined midway through the show by a very special guest, Speeks from Tensor, one of our favorite partners to talk all things Tensor and Tensorians. That's going to be absolutely epic. Really jazzed up to talk to Speeks about Tensor and everything going on over there. They have a very cool new media program that Speeks hosts called Tensor Live, and none other than Soul Jake is going to be on it on tomorrow on the 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll talk about that. Jake's obviously absolutely crushing it right now as a creator, really coming into his own in a huge way. So we're big fans. Shout out to Tensor, shout out to Speeks, and of course, shout out to Jake. Sig and Easy, did you guys listen to any of the Trump interview?
I watched it at 2x speed this morning. I fell asleep last night because it was 2 a.m. start time for me. Ended up giving it a listen around 7:30, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. I don't even know this morning at 2x speed. I got through 40-ish minutes of it which would be about an hour of the hour 15 of the 3 hours. I was not impressed. The market was not impressed. The poly market actually saw a couple percentage point rise in Kamala following it. So Harris up to 52, Trump down to, I think, 45. Which is a little surprising. A lot of people, when I said I was disappointed in the interview this morning, said it was a conversation, not an interview, which Elon said he deliberately wanted it to be a conversation so people could understand how Trump speaks, not in an interview format. I think that was a bad decision, in my opinion. They could have just had a phone call by themselves. You didn't need 19 million people to tune in and hope for some sort of speculation on what the current macro conditions are in the global economy with an election in 2 months. That's where I think the focus should be. And Elon's not a good interviewer. That's the other thing at all. He stutters a lot, says the word yeah a lot of filler words, which I don't think helped Trump's case at all. You did get a 15x if you took Trump to say tampon during the interview. So That was probably the catalyst of it. Over 10,000 meme coins were launched last night on Pump Fund during the 3 hours, with a 0.132% of them reaching radium. So basically 99.999% went to zero. Back to the interview. There was not much quality from it, I would say. Truthfully, I was disappointed. I was hoping Elon would try to let me say one thing. There was one piece of information I enjoyed hearing about before Trump went on a tangent, and it was his reaction to the assassination attempt, which I thought was a good question. We haven't actually gotten feedback on that, and I was very interested in it. We only got about 3 sentences of his actual take before he went on some wild tirade and basically circled it back to how the Democratic Party was evil and Harris was a disciple of Satan to some capacity. And I was like, okay, I would have liked more about what was going through your head and what led to you to stand up and yell freedom with a fist in the air. I don't know. That was where I was hoping we'd get a little bit more. It's tough when you don't have a good interviewer driving the conversation though.
Yeah,
I did what. Sorry, I did what Easy did, and I tried to I always listen to X Speed, but I couldn't listen to the whole thing. I got really, really bored, and 100% agree with you. Elon, he is amazing to interviewing him is amazing, especially when he doesn't like the interviewer. He challenges them, and he makes he gets the audience on his side. But when he's on the other side and being the host, it just doesn't work. And I think Trump will. So I think he looked weak in this sort of environment, but I think he'll shine in a debate. I really think he'll shine in the debate. It's almost like he's on stage and this is his moment, and he gets to punch Kamala in his face with his charisma and wit and charm and everything that Trump is known for. But I felt like I could not have sat. If I had stayed up to whatever time that was, 2 a.m. my time, I would have been bitterly disappointed, and I couldn't even get through it. But I think for Trump to look good, he needs somebody who can bring out his character. He's almost like a character that you need to kind of like when we have Nick and Choose Nick comes out, right? you want the interviewer to be able to bring out that personality, and Elon's not capable of that, which I think why it sort of fell a little bit flat on the nose.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Twitter Spaces is the right platform for Trump. What Nick Carter actually pointed out, though, is that there's a 0% chance that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden would do something like that. So just for the sake, I mean, he just basically did like a 3-hour podcast, sort of in a super informal way without polish, right? Because he's just literally talking into a phone. So that's definitely interesting for sure. I wonder what it means for Twitter Spaces, the medium, because it doesn't seem to be a very supported medium. Although it looks like there might have been a minor user interface update when they should have filmed it on Trump's side, is what they should have done. They should have published the video after the fact too. Easy, you're going to say something?
I was going to say this actually wasn't his first like casual conversation. He did the Aiden Ross interview as well.
Right, but that's on stream. Like, you know, the Twitter Spaces as a medium has never caught on. Like, people don't even know what it is. If you go to like Washington Square Park and ask people what Twitter Spaces is, they won't know what it is. More people will know who Aiden Ross is, the guy, versus Twitter Spaces, the platform. It's
having. Sorry, Peter. Just having Trump on Twitter Spaces is like having a fantastic comedian. I don't know, like okay, I can't think of any top comedians right now, but think of a really good comedian, put them on Twitter Spaces versus putting them live on TV. Like that's the kind of character Trump is. And when you have a really good comedian on, say, a phone, which is basically what Twitter Spaces is, he or she doesn't get the reaction from the crowd. So that's why it felt, I think, very flat, because he needs the crowd to interact with, and then that brings out like the Trump that we know. So just being on the phone, I don't think it's a medium that suits Trump, and it was never going to be a good conversation because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I also I don't really get a lot of insight from Trump, and that's not me or any of these politicians for that matter. That's not me suggesting that that's not me indicating which direction I'll go in for the election, but I'd rather listen to like a guy that's like a physical therapist do a podcast than Donald Trump. I'm going to get more insight from the physical therapy guy. Like, I know what Trump's going to say. He's going to say they did a terrible job. There's open borders. We need to get our economy back, and I'm going to cut taxes, blah, blah, blah. Like, I know what's going on. I find it fascinating if someone hasn't made up their mind yet who they're going to vote for. I'm like, what is rattling around in your brain? Not saying that you should vote one way or another, but it's just like, what are you looking to hear from either of these people that's going to sway you in one direction or the other? They're pretty cut and dry in terms of like who they are at this point. It's like pretty extreme difference between the two of them. I don't know. Anyway, look, we're going to get into this weather report in just a second. Reminder that today's show is brought to you in partnership with Tensor, the leading Solana NFT marketplace for pro traders. I only use Tensor. I used it yesterday on the show to buy Canpai Panda NFTs, to buy the FUD, as Easy pointed out on Solana. Of course, I bought the Solana ones, goes without saying. Easy, what else should people know about Tensor?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. They just have had probably some of the most exciting couple of weeks since their launch. They just celebrated the anniversary of the Tensorians mint last week. A lot of community activations and what was similar to like a scavenger hunt, where if you completed all of the quest challenges that they had on the timeline, they're going to be rolling out some form of a reward, it appears. They also announced that they're open sourcing all of their protocols, which is huge for decentralizing trading platforms and giving people access to the underlying code stack to build things on top of it and take action around that. They've launched a monthly interview series. I was lucky to be the first guest on there, which was awesome to do. Shout out Speeks, shout out Justin. And this week they'll be doing Soul Jakey, which I'm extremely excited to tune in for, about how he almost was sued for $1 million by a certain individual. And Jakey, I can tell you, Jakey's got some wild background stories, including being the star of a movie in Canada. So very excited to tune into that and listen to what it is he's been doing, especially on the Tensor monthly interview series. And they've got some other amazing partnerships behind the scenes. They've got stuff going on with Superbased, Star Atlas, Pathfinders, Hermans, and many more, in which they're launching these projects in partnership with. So very excited for all of these things, basically covering every single spectrum of the NFT ecosystem. And if you're not following Tensor, it's at Tensor_HQ. You got to turn those notifications on. There's a ton that they're working on, a ton that'll be rolling out in the near future. And it's been an absolute pleasure to work with them.
Yeah, we got it pinned to the top. Follow Tensor's account. Follow Speaks. He's going to be on the show too, because he's obviously a great, component to Tensor himself. But yeah, Jake, I'm not surprised at all that he's been in a movie. That's literally not surprising. I would anticipate more movies from him over time. He's still wicked, super young, getting a lot of acting experience under his belt. Sig, I'm assuming you're going to rip this weather report. Please,
let's rip it. For midsummer, mid-August, it's Tuesday, August 13th. Let's get into that crypto roundup. Looking at the majors, it's just down 1 to 2%, pretty flat across the board this morning. Bitcoin at 58,800, Ethereum at 2,650, and Solana at $146. The largest mover amongst the top 100 coins, it was WIF. It's down 7% on the day to 1.7 billion market cap. Over the past 24 hours, top 3 stories. Well, firstly, Donald Trump, we just spoke about it, hosted a 3-hour-long space on X last night with Elon Musk. Despite 60% poly market odds beforehand, Trump, in fact, he did not discuss crypto or Bitcoin throughout the interview. Only 3 words offered on poly market hit the yes button on the night. It was MAGA, illegal immigrant, and your favorite word, tampon. Secondly, we saw another green day for Ethereum ETS as they posted 5 million in net inflows. That's good. That's good news. More interesting, though, was that yesterday marked the first day since the launch that Grayscale's ETH fund failed to post outflows. Perhaps the bleeding has now stopped. And then lastly, we may have just seen the final distribution, the final distribution from Mt. Gox as they moved almost 2 billion worth of Bitcoin. The funds were sent to an address speculated to be BitGo, the 5th and final exchange that will be distributing funds to Mt. Gox creditors. That is all for the weather report today. It is back to you in the studio.
Fantastic weather report as usual, Sig. Mt. Gox. We'll talk about this for not very long, but we got this little boogeyman of Mt. Gox, one of the last boogeymen for Bitcoin, and how it's been a boogeyman hanging over the head of not like Bitcoiners, because I feel like Bitcoiners actually didn't really think that it mattered, but more just like the market narrative. So they're down to $2.7 billion of Bitcoin holdings. That's 27% of the 10 billion that was held earlier this year. So in other words, $7 billion of Bitcoin has come off the Mt. Gox balance sheet, if you will. Have you really even felt that? Bitcoin costs $60K. It's chilling at the previous all-time high, more or less right now. Yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is just now a boogeyman about to die, about to be wrapped up, and there aren't really many more boogeymen that you can kind of point to. But easy, I'd be curious quickly. We don't have to spend a lot of time on Mt. Gox. Any thoughts here on Mt. Gox and whether it's going to just murder Bitcoin down to zero?
Dude, Bitcoin's going to $1 million. I said it in a long form post today. Like, at the end of the day, you just buy the dips, you forget that you own it, and you circle back in 10 years. Like, this Mt. Gox thing, I'm so tired of hearing about it. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Cool, we're finally over it. The next thing people will complain about is FTX when that fund starts to get distributed. And I'm sure there'll be something else. We got past the Japanese yen trade already. So, I don't know. I could care less. I think Bitcoin in general, like, the more that you look at it, it's like, rotate profits into whatever currency in the bull you think has the most upside. In the bear, rotate it into Bitcoin and then continue to accumulate Bitcoin. Like, it's that simple. The entire process is that simple.
Easy. It's funny that you say, just rotate back in 10 years. That's exactly what these people have done. Their money has been trapped for 10 years. Literally. Like, I'm not going to lie. If I had my money in Mt. Gox and I had Bitcoin at like whatever it was back then, like $20, $40, $50, I would so be selling right now. You were never going to get a return like that because you can't. Your money was literally trapped. And I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to 0 PO. I'm not. I'm just saying as an individual, I would be selling it because there's no way I'm going to wait another 10 years.
You've been forced to diamond hand it for 10 years. Like, take the profit. Pay the tax on it. Go buy yourself a nice vacation for being a diamond-handed alpha in this market, dude. Like, the likelihood of anybody diamond-handed for 10 years is so slim. And now, shout out Mt. Gox for forcing you to do it, but also shout out Mt. Gox for giving you the Bitcoin because FTX is paying out in USDC at the time of collapse. So that's, excuse my French, that's fucked up. Like, that's fucked up. Solana's done a 200x. Like, that's fucked up.
Absolutely. And we'll move on from this, but just to both Easy and Signal's point, Fred Krueger, one of my favorite Bitcoin follows on Twitter. And I mean, he was uploading his video content to Spotify per my request, but he has stopped, which is the least surprising thing of all time. But regardless, Fred pointed out that he thinks more people are going to make more money with Bitcoin from this year onward that versus the first, call it 14 years, because it was so damn hard to hold it for the first 14 years, right? Because the risk was way more at that time because nobody really knew what it was. No one knew what it was going to be. It had a teeny tiny market cap for a long time. Now it's got $1 trillion market cap asset. There's an ETF. Traditional investors are buying it. Pension funds are buying it with a 100-year time horizon. More wealth will be created with Bitcoin from here. But if you've held Mt. Gox Bitcoin that you bought for $50, you put $5,000 in way back when, 20 to $50 a coin. Now each one of those coins is $60,000. That's some absolutely crazy shit, and obviously borderline not reproducible. But anyway, look, Ray's got it in the call sheet for Trump and Elon. I feel like we already kind of discussed this. The key highlights are that Trump did not mention crypto or Bitcoin during the 3-hour-long interview, which I'm not that surprised about. I'm not that surprised about that. And that was at 50% more or less initial polymarket odds. Only 3 of the 11 options resolved to yes. And those things were MAGA, illegal immigrants. I mean, illegal immigrants should have been like a 99. He's going to talk about that, especially with Elon, right?
It was funny how that actually came up. They were talking. It was like during the shooting, they were talking. And he was like, yeah, I was talking about illegal immigrants and I turned my head sideways and got shot in the ear. So like, and Elon's like, oh, illegal immigrants saved you. They saved your life. And he's like, yeah, I guess so.
That's a funny little joke. There you go. So there was over 300 grand of liquidity was on the tampon bet, whether or not he would say tampon. It turns out that he did mention it at the end. Does anybody know, did he say tampon, Tim? Is that when it was said, right?
I've got the clip here. I'll pull it up. It's real short.
Okay, Ray, with the clip. Let's go.
Dude, Ray is crushing, dude. I love it. Dude, he's gonna put Jamie out of a job over at Rogan. I'm telling you.
Here we go. What do we got? We can't hear that, Ray. That's the only thing.
Running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay, now that's all I have to hear. Tampons in boys' bathrooms, and that means she believes in that too. I mean.
Well, there you go. That's
crypto Twitter let out the loudest, proudest cheer when he said that word. If I could have seen CT's face of the millions, just only zoom in on the crypto Twitter audience, the cheer that they must have let out when he said that sentence.
Yeah,
I love it. Now, at least I know now that there's no tampons in the girls. I just have to run into the boys to get a tampon, and I can run back to the girls. Sorry, that's completely off key, but yeah, continue on the crypto.
Well, super funny stuff. And just the idea of a bunch of crypto bros, like just listening to this podcast intently, this conversation between Elon and Trump. And then when he says tampon, just going like, oh, like that's just like a kind of funny visual for sure. It's not Patrick Mahomes, finding the end zone for the Super Bowl and you hit your Super Bowl bet or something. It's just a near 80-year-old man saying the word tampon on a Twitter space. Anyway, look, we got US PPI data. Obviously, we are not high-level macro economists. However, Easy pays really close attention to this stuff, so he can share some pretty good insight and obviously Signals, got some serious sharpness as well. Producer Price Index. This data provides insights into inflation at the wholesale level, which can influence the Federal Reserve's decision regarding interest rates. If you guys remember, the Federal Reserve at the most recent FOMC meeting, just a week and a half or so ago, if I'm not mistaken, declared that they were going to not cut rates yet. We then saw the most devastating 24 to 48 hour market crash that we've seen in over 35 years, which was pretty gnarly stuff. So if we look at the PPI data, and Ray actually has the poly market odds on rate cuts in front of us here, which we'll talk about too. But the PPI data, we got month over month month over month producer prices rose 0.1%. The estimates were 0.2, so came in under. Annual producer prices rose 2.2%. That's under the 2.3% estimates. Core PPI month of month was at 0% versus 0.2% estimates, so that came in under as well. And annual core PPI was at 2.4, under the 2.7% estimate. So lower than expected PPI numbers could indicate that inflation is easing and could provide additional reason for a September rate cut from the Fed. Fred Krueger talked about Bitcoin price. I guess this is switching gears, so I'll come back to that. But Easy, what do you think about the PPI?
I shared my dollar chart, Ray, as well, if you want to pull that up. I didn't realize this had actually broken down a few days prior. This was the thing that I've been closely watching here. It broke out of this wedge a handful of days ago, essentially when the Japanese unwind the yen situation happened, and I totally missed it. So the PPI data coming in slightly under shows that inflation is kind of easing to an extent, but it barely missed, which shows that inflation is still present, and they were hoping for a soft landing. If we came in much lower, or even had prices declining and not rising, because what that PPI data means is that it's still, prices are still rising, right? Not as aggressively, but they're still going up. You want PPI data to be negative for us to say that inflation is actually going down. So inflation's still trending up, not as aggressively, which is all right, but that still signifies there's most likely going to be a rate cut. The bigger thing is going to be CPI, which is tomorrow, the consumer price index. If that comes in and outpaces, we may get an emergency rate cut. We may get more verbiage from the Fed. We may get more verbiage from all the people that we know and love on the federal level that give us all of our information that dictates the markets. Stocks have appeared to be pretty positive in regards to the PPI data because of exactly that. A lot of people are like, why are stocks and risk on assets moving up if PPI data came in under? And that's because prices are still rising. So they're going to have to do something to start to cure inflation. And based on that poly market bet that we saw on the rate cuts and how many bips, it looks like 100 is actually at 20% with 75 at 30%. So a 50% chance that we're going to get 3 to 4 rate cuts, which is pretty substantial given the fact that there's only 4 months left of the year, 4 full calendar months.
Wow. Sig, any thoughts on this before we move on?
I still don't believe we're going to get what poly market odds are saying, which is 3 or 4 rate cuts before the end of the year. It's hyper aggressive to do that. I know we're going into an election, so that could be the only reason why they might become a little bit more aggressive. But regardless of the odds, you just think about it. It just doesn't make sense to go from inflation. Okay, it's not rapidly rising, but it's slowing down, to then going to like 3 or 4 cuts before the end of the year. It'll be interesting to watch, but I still think they're going to just stay in this no rate cuts in September, and then perhaps we get 1 or 2 before the end of the year. That's what I think.
35% here on 3. I mean, look, poly market, a lot of people are treating poly market as gospel, and whoever runs the poly market Twitter account sort of presents it that way, where if something on poly market comes true, they're like, the poly market users already knew this ahead of time. You know, it was like priced in or whatever. It's going to be very interesting to see who wins the election. That's a huge, huge question that I have, because obviously right now Kamala Harris has a 52% edge on poly market, but also this rate cut bet is very, very interesting. So we will see. Quickly, we got Fred Krueger on Bitcoin price. Then I want to talk about our Canpai Pandas live buys. And then there's an NFT project on Tensor that I'm wondering if it's free right now, if it's literally free. Quickly, Fred Krueger put a poll out there. He said, where would Bitcoin be right now with no ETFs? Eric B from Bloomberg says 20K. The Power Law says 38K. A 30 Bitcoin multiplier suggests 30K. I do not know what the 30 Bitcoin multiplier means. And Checkmate, who's a big time Bitcoiner, says 50K. So it looks like the 2 most popular results are Power Law at 38K, Checkmate at 50K. My response would be just to look at where it was at this time in 2020, which at this time in 2020, I was a few months into accumulating Bitcoin for the first time. I bought it before Michael Saylor did. But anyway, if I recall correctly, I think it was at like maybe 10 grand.
Wait, yeah, why are you looking at 2020 as opposed to looking at months before there was any speculation that there was ever going to be an ETF?
Because I want to see where it was at this time exactly 4 years ago, because that's the previous Bitcoin cycle. So August 2020 looks like 11K. So I was off by a little bit. I said 10, but 11K, which is just over 50% off the previous all-time high of 19K. And so right now, just off 50% off the all-time high would be around 30K, so I think that kind of adds up. I think that we have a unique cycle right now, because when BlackRock filed for the ETF, as soon as I found out, for example, we were doing the Bitcoin show at that time. I was, getting a chance to speak with some of the brightest minds in Bitcoin and really in macroeconomics in many ways. People were pointing out that BlackRock had only ever had 1 or 2 ETFs decline. I think it's actually just one out of over
single ETF.
one ETF was declined, and it was because of a technicality, and I believe they ended up getting it across the line after the fact, out of over 500. So essentially, when BlackRock filed for the Bitcoin ETF, everyone was like, if they're filing for it, they know it's going to be approved. There was then a multi-month period where you could just plow your money into Coinbase and MicroStrategy. This is if you're managing, money in TradFi. So, for example, I took my mom's money and just plowed it into Coinbase and MicroStrategy, and you saw this crazy run up going into the ETF. There was then the sort of sell the news moment for 2 weeks, and then resume up only in many ways. So we got our new all-time high before the halving for the first time ever, which is very, very unique. It's because of the ETF, and it's been an interesting cycle thus far. So I think that 30K Bitcoin would have been very realistic at this time. So we're chilling at 2x that. That's got to be bullish.
Dude, no, that chart is bullish. That Bitcoin chart that Ray just had up looks so good. Like everything about that chart looks so good. New all-time high, falling wedge. That's a bullish pattern off of that new break up the all-time highs. And now it's still consolidating. Like unless we break down below 40K, we're in a bullish ecosystem right here, like a complete and I know people don't think TA is real, but just looking at where buyers and sellers are present, anything over 40K right now is so bullish. Just this chart is so good, which I'll take it.
Yeah, I also think I was gonna say, I definitely think that we can go back up towards 70K between now and I want to say February next year, because it just feels as if like they need to hand over this economy, going into the election that looks beautiful and like lipstick on a pig as we go into November. And then you also, once we know who it is and then you have the actual handover in January, you always have this euphoria period where everyone has hope and the stock market has hope, and that all gets reflected in the equity price markets. But then once they actually take place as a new president, you then sort of have the reality, okay, this is what the economy actually looks like, and we're going to have to do X, Y, Z to essentially make it better. So I do think it's almost like not a bear trap, but I want to say like an election trap where everything is going to look rosy until the new president comes in and is like, actually, this is what we're going to have to do to make sure that we don't go into a recession, that inflation is completely tamed as we try and go back to having inflation at around 2%. To think like inflation was at 2% for God knows how long is wild. It's absolutely wild. And for us to try and go back there, that's a long road. And we're not even close to that right now.
Yeah, I mean, you make a lot of good points there for sure. I agree with you in the sense that, so for me, either way, either president is bullish in the sense that right now we have uncertainty. I think uncertainty is, kind of directing where Bitcoin is at right now. But I think even if Harris wins, I think then you got the certainty. It's like, all right, cool. We got Harris for 4 years. It's fine. I think 80K Bitcoin by the end of the year is what I would love to see. And that's like my little mini prediction. Obviously anything can happen. Who the hell knows? But I don't think it would be unreasonable for us to get 80K Bitcoin. If you look at 2020, there was a crazy run from like 11, 12, 13K to 30K in like a 3-week period in December, which is one of those runs that we talk about that, really Fred Krueger pointed out, and I've repeated on this show, which is that Bitcoin only goes up in a meaningful way like 12 days a year. And one of those days actually just happened, by the way. If you look at one of those days, we had a crazy rip just the other day. It was after the crazy dip. Right. So those days are very few and far between. And in the previous cycle, it happened in December. So I think that you could see that at the end of the year, this year for sure. We'll see who wins the presidency. Either president's going to print money. It's just a fact. That's not going to stop. Donald Trump's not going to put us on a hard money standard. That's just not how it works. So either president's going to print money. Harris is going to print her ass off. You could make a case that Harris is more bullish for Bitcoin. Probably not more bullish for if you're running a crypto startup, I don't think, because regulation is going to probably be a pain in the ass for 4 years with Harris. We'll see. But for Bitcoin itself, doesn't really matter. Either way.
I don't think she'll be firing Gensler on the first day. Put it like that, right? Will Harris fire Gensler on her first day? No, absolutely not.
Real quick, eBrink randomly brought up that RFK Jr. kills bears. He didn't kill the bear. Roadkill killed the bear. He wanted to use the bear, which is fine. He then we've never talked about this on the show. We're going to take 30 seconds on this because this is like one of my favorite things that's happened.
I don't even know this story. I have no context.
The story is RFK Jr. went hawking or falconing, I should say, falconing with a bunch of other rich people, which is, I mean, the RFK is part of the Kennedy family, guys. You got to keep this in mind. This guy grew up rich as shit, and he likes falconing, which is apparently a sport where you've got a trained falcon that you rock with on your arm and you hunt with it. So the falcon goes and kills shit and you get the game from it. And he's like, yeah, we went falconing upstate. We drove up, we went falconing, and on the way up, a lady had pulled over because she hit a bear. So the bear was dead. And he was like, well, I'll take the bear because I'll skin it and I'll butcher it and I'll put the meat in my fridge. And you can do that in New York. You can get a bear tag. This is all above board. That's totally fine. So he puts the bear in the mirrors to put the story so unhinged. It's just it's the ultimate rich people story. It's basically a Connor Roy from Succession story. So then he goes falconing and he's like, we had a great day of falconing, got a lot of great game. It was awesome, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, dude, you can't even make this up. He's like, then I had dinner in the city with, I forget who, some important ass people, right? Because he's RFK Jr. He's literally JFK's nephew. He's Bobby Kennedy's son. And so he gets dinner literally at Peter Luger. The names of the fact that he's like, it was at Peter Luger. So he's goes to Peter Luger, which, if you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, is 100-plus-year-old steakhouse, regarded as essentially one of the best steakhouses in the United States. It's without question the best steakhouse in New York. It's unbelievable. Best cream spinach you're ever going to get. Quite frankly, you can't really get cream spinach elsewhere after you've had it at Peter Luger. And so he's like, the dinner ran late, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I wanted to go back to my place in Westchester, which is above New York City, to butcher the bear, take care of the bear, put it in the freezer, whatever the hell he was going to do with it. But I had to catch a flight early the next morning. So he didn't have time to go back to Westchester. So what did he do? He stayed at his Upper East Side apartments, more rich people shit. You got an Upper East Side apartment in New York City. What was his solution to the bear? Couldn't leave the bear in the car for however long. Things are going to start decomposing in what I'm assuming is a really nice car, right? So what was his idea? He had a bike in the car too. He goes to Central Park, middle of the night, RFK Jr. goes to Central Park on some rich kid shit and dumps the bear carcass in Central Park with the bike to make it seem like a cyclist had hit the bear and dips. What happens? Next morning, they find the bear in Central Park. It goes viral that it happened because it's so unusual. It's just very unusual.
Yeah, why is a bear in the city? That's not a thing.
Super unusual. Goes viral in the sense that the New York Post, all these New York periodicals published it. So if you were in New York at this time, you might remember the story. Someone's telling me to do the RFK voice. You don't do the RFK voice. It's a vaccine injury. You don't make fun of his voice. Although it is an interesting impression because it's very unusual, but I'm not going to do it. But anyway, and it turns out that was RFK Jr. If that's not some Succession Connor Roy shit, that 1,000% is. And then the memes that came out of it were so good. They took a freeze frame from the video that he published, because he published a video telling the story himself to front run the New York Post story. The only thing that they had on top of it is they have a picture of him with the bear
dropping it off at Central Park,
putting his hand in the bear's mouth as a joke, which the bear was already dead. It died from roadkill. He's not abusing the animal. It is what it is, right? It's fine. But anyway, in the video of him, they took a freeze frame of the video, and then the meme was basically recounting horrible things that happened. So if you Ray, if you could find any memes,
nah, this is crazy, bro. That's a bear cub. That's not even a full-size bear.
It was a cub. Yeah, it was roadkill though, right?
No, it wasn't like he hunted it. No. It had already been hit, completely separate. Wild picture, wild story. The fact that he thought that someone would see this in Central Park and be like, "Oh, a biker hit it," totally makes sense. If I hit a bear on a bike, the what? This whole thing just gets weirder and weirder as it progresses.
He's
I
probably
can't even drop my coffee cup. I can't even drop my coffee cup without feeling guilty. Now you're just dropping a bear in the park.
It's rich people shit. They probably laughed about it and thought it was funny. Ray?
No. So I have a daughter, and this is one of her favorite books.
All right. So here,
Oh my God, Brown Bear, what do you see? I see RFK Jr. dumping me with a bicycle in Central Park.
That's a decent one. I found some. So we're gonna move on from this real quick, ladies and gentlemen. I just gave you every detail in the story, though, by the way, because I did feel that it was very interesting. I just sent you 2 memes. Frank Chaparro from The Block posted some funny memes. Other people were too. The meme was you post the freeze frame of RFK, and then you like look at this one real quick. So read it. It was 2017, 2018, and I was buying up Bitcoin cheap on U.S. exchanges and then selling them for profit on Korean and Japanese platforms. I used that money to launch an exchange built by traders for traders, basically implying that every big disaster, he's behind it, and he thinks that it's like not a big deal. There's one more. Here we go. Oh no, he posted it twice. There were other ones. It was like something like, it was 1992. Basically that he's responsible for all these things that we don't have explanations for that were big disasters. It's funny memes. I'm probably not explaining it properly. Anyway, let's move on from the RFK ridiculous story, which was pretty funny. Let's talk price action on Ethereum. We have a bunch of news stories here. There's nothing here that I think is too crazy to touch. I mean, we got an investment firm called MetaPlanet from Japan buying $3.5 million of Bitcoin. Not super significant, but cool to see. El Salvador's Bitcoin, man, El Salvador is straight cooking. Bitcoin City receives $1.6 billion investment for a seaport. They're absolutely cooking over there, buying, I think it's like a Bitcoin a day or something like that. The chart of El Salvador's Bitcoin holdings is absolutely bonkers, and they are not selling, ladies and gentlemen. They've been doing this for 4 years. Not a Bitcoin a day for 4 years, but accumulating Bitcoin and holding it, not selling any of it for 4 years, and literally having it be the bedrock of the country's economy. Legal tender. The Papusa ladies accept Bitcoin via Lightning, via the Strike app. Anyway, so look, Ethereum's leading the majors over the last 7 days, up 8.5% to 2650. In the same time frame, Bitcoin's only up 7% and Sol's up 5%. Ethereum outperforming here. What do you think, Easy?
I'm not terribly surprised. Like, that's the thing is ETH historically, this cycle has been lagging. So at some point it needs to start to move, especially with ETF and TradFi inflows coming in. It's also like Mt. Gox is Bitcoin focused. So like you don't have a lot of these situations that should be affecting alts. And I know ETH's not an alt, it's a major now, but essentially everything besides Bitcoin falls into an alt bucket of some sort, like this is a decentralized app layer. You're seeing significantly more volume in users on L2s. And I think ETH will have its day, especially because like maybe it's not ETH mainnet, but ETH mainnet still has ETH as the gas for the majority of these chains, whether you're looking at Blast or Base, which are 2 of the larger ones aside from like Arbitrum and Optimism, but they're 2 of the newer ones that utilize ETH as the underlying gas layer. And I do think we're going to continue to see an uptrend in ETH just across the market. Like it has TradFi inflows. That at the end of the day is the biggest catalyst you could possibly ask for on what's historically been a fairly illiquid asset in the grand scheme of things. When you have TradFi assets entering the space, it's billions, if not trillions of dollars that enter over a long enough timeline, and they don't lose. So the fact that this ETH ETF is live and has been down, I said 7 to 10 days, I think was my timeline post ETF. We're right around that point right now. Exact same price action we got with the Bitcoin ETF. Would it shock me if we push back above 3K upwards towards 34, 3600? Not unlikely at all, in my opinion. That's kind of where I'm targeting and where I think we're going to see across the board. Like ETH should start to rally. Bitcoin dominance should slowly start to chop, if not steadily trickle down. And I think we're going to start to see an alt run across the board, whether that is ETH, Sol, some of these other alts. They've been lagging the whole cycle, and I think it's finally their time right now.
Sig, anything to add? We got over 8.5 million addresses interacting with Uniswap on L2s last month to kind of reinforce some of the things that Easy just mentioned. That's over 2x the previous all-time high. You have Coinbase with Base, obviously making some waves, and a lot of people thinking that it's only the beginning for that. A lot of people talking about it. A lot of people talking about Base. Sig, any thoughts here on Ethereum?
It's interesting because just on Friday, we had that question in the weekly bets, which one will outperform, ETH or Sol this week? And with exact timing, Ray has got it right that it looks like ETH is going to win this week. I picked Sol. I am pretty surprised. It's happening literally this week right now. I was expecting it to happen later in the year, maybe around end of September going into October. But I mean, I think it's bullish. I have a bag of ETH. I want ETH to do well. And alt season, I'm starting to believe in it less and less, Easy. I really am. I just feel like the two places to sit right now just feel like you're either in majors or you're in meme coins, or you're potentially in some derivative like, you know, your Radium play, which has a thesis around it. But I'm really starting to find it difficult to think that alt season, where you're talking about your Say, your Sui, your near these kind of things that like they're gonna pump.
It's the new alts. It's the new alts. It's Barachain. It's Monad. I still am bullish AVAX. It's some of these L2s, Blast and Base. I think will both have their day. Base obviously is just ETH. There is no base token. There's no base token. Like that is the most bullish thing for ETH. Doesn't need one. Doesn't need it. It has Coinbase capital behind it. Base is hands down the one that I think, if anything, you figure out a way to get some exposure to something on Base. I think NFTs, the Uniswap of Base, something, because Base will have its day, and I think Base is going to, that ecosystem will continue to scale. That Miggles coin was still the one that I was like, all it takes is one more Coinbase commercial to send this thing to $250 million. That's it. Like it doesn't have to make sense. And when you say like you don't see an alt season, it doesn't have to be all alts. All it takes is 2 or 3 of these to outpace Bitcoin and ETH, and that's an alt season. Like plain and simple. There's still an argument Solana's an alt. Like, yeah, it's been grouped in now as part of the big 3. That was Litecoin last cycle. That was still an alt to many people, despite it being on CNBC and Fast Money every single day from 2016 to 2020.
Solana is the same as Litecoin. Thank you, Easy.
God damn it.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. All right, real quick, because we're going to have Speeks on from Tensor in just a second, and that is going to be an absolutely dope conversation. We got to talk about NFTs on Tensor real quick. Because we bought some yesterday. So we have to check in on how we're doing. So we bought Campai Pandas on the show yesterday, buying the FUD, if you will, after the Restore the Republic debacle. So where are we at? So I bought mine around 8.5. I bought 2 of them. Big bet there, 17 soul. So we got them at 10.61. What do you think of this chart? Charting it on Tensor right here. Easy.
Looks good. It looks good, dude. It's not like right now it's just trading flat. Obviously the ETH side of this is interesting because you have to like kind of consider that there is an ETH NFT and what does the ETH price action do? They sold from 15 SOL, which was about 0.75 ETH, down to where we are now. Actually lower. They went to 0.88 or 8.8, which I wish I got in when you did. I'm in just under 10. I picked up one yesterday.
Wow,
I was a little late
you're
on
a sucker.
Yeah. I know. I gave you the trade. But I think these have a pretty clear path up to 15. And even then, all it takes is one Icebags tweet, basically telling us what happened with that RTR thing. And then everyone's going to not care about it. And then it's back to bull post and Campai. And we go right back to where we sold off. Like, it's a pretty straightforward thing. Like, look at this, dude, down $700. That's not a bad trade on NFTs. A 50% gain, especially on size. That's awesome, dude. If you can get a 10 soul out of this trade, that's a huge win just to continue to compound soul. And they keep one of them. Like, it's Campai Media is crushing. They're going to be, in my opinion, the media company for the face of the UFC. And you have Platinum Perry's Fight League, which, if Karate Combat's any indicator, these alternative fight leagues outside of the UFC have some serious momentum. And look at this. Look how thin that floor is. Look how thin that floor is. One sale to put us up over 11.
Well, I love to see it. I'm glad that I bought it I like buying the FUD in general when I know that the person isn't like a complete piece of shit. So that's like, you know, that was why I just immediately, no hesitation, bought it on the show.
What he did is so much less than some of these other massive projects. Like, think about it, dude. He doesn't have a rug under his belt. I mean, RTR is technically a rug, sure, but he doesn't have multiple rugged NFTs under his belt. He didn't kill somebody. Like, at the end of the day, dude, like this, I think this is significantly overdrawn.
Didn't drop a bear in Central Park.
Did not drop a bear in Central Park.
All right, real quick, because we're gonna have Speaks on in just a second. I have a question. Are Retardio Cousins free?
It's a buy at 14. 1,000% a buy. It's 1,000% a buy here.
Is it
1,000%? It's free, dude. I said it. I think Retardio Cousins go to 100 Solana.
All right, I'm buying one right now.
100 Sol.
I'm buying one right now.
Nick bought one last week at like 18, and I think that was a good buy. If you think the meme coin super cycle will continue to be the narrative for this cycle, which I do, I think meme coins aren't going anywhere. There is nothing in my mind that makes me not think these get back to all-time high. It's just, it ebbs and flows, dude. It ebbs and flows. Ray bought one of these. Ray YOLO bought one of these. Ray, what was that? 6 SOL that you got it?
I think I got it for like 2 SOL and immediately sold it for like 4 on the stream we ran.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Oh,
so.
and
And
I'm kicking myself now. Oh, I was gonna
14
ask
days later,
you
they
what
ran
you
to
were
30.
thinking on
Dude,
the floors.
I just took I had 34 Sol in the wallet. I was like, all right, cool, clean. So I got my Solana wallet, user interface is fire. Then I just go to Tensor, user interface is fire. I click buy, the NFT's mine. Can you believe where we're at with this shit compared to 4 years ago? Are you kidding me? And I don't even, what was the gas fee? Like a cent?
It's a hundredth. It's a hundredth of a penny. It's a fixed
Dude.
gas fee, dude. Solana's so much better because of that. If this was 2021 November when we started buying NFTs on the show, you'd get gas sniped. You'd press the buy. We'd sit here for 3 seconds. You'd yell, "God damn it! It didn't go through," and then you wouldn't have one, and we'd be like, "What the hell just happened?" You got it instantly. Like that is the best part. That's the
Look
best
at
part.
that. I mean, that's just free. Daddy Nick told me Bitcoin puppets are free. The reason I don't want to do it is because I just love my user interface.
To stack
here
his
with Tensor.
stats, dude. He likes to stack his stats.
You got to stack sats, obviously, but I mean, just user interface. It's like, dude, like, come on. I like to just click the button. And it's like, oh, it's yours. It's yours. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, that was better than buying something on Amazon. Anyway, we got Speeks himself here rocking a very fresh, trendy hat there from Tensor. I don't know who designed that, but Speeks, how's it going?
Hey guys, how's it going? Great to be on the show. I appreciate you loving the hats.
Hell yeah, welcome back. Well, look, so people, I think most people that listen to the show are aware of Tensor, the consensus #1 NFT trading platform on Solana, singularly focused on Solana. But you guys are doing a lot of really cool stuff as an organization. We got a chance to get dinner here in New York with Ilya a few weeks back. That was awesome. Super cool. But can you give us a brief summary of the NFT project, Tensorians, the kind of journey over the past year, because we just hit the 1-year anniversary, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's just over a year now. I think Rich posted about it just the other day. It's crazy to think, right, that we launched in the midst of a bear market just over a year ago. Yep. And really, like, Tensorians is all about building that community of super fans, right? And we saw that, like, it was born in the bear market. And even to today, like, loads of our success is due to having that community behind us.
Oh, hell yeah. And we remember very well that time period because I think Bodago's By the Date launched only a couple weeks before. And that was when the SEC sent, I believe it was the Wells notice to Coinbase that specifically mentioned that Solana was a security. And that hacked, 30% off of the market cap of Solana. Tough time, really gnarly time. Rebounded handsomely. Solana rebounded handsomely in the coming months, but still, it felt pretty weird at that time. Coinbase was down at like $60 a share. It was pretty wild shit. I guess, can you talk about the activations that you guys have been running for the Tensorian holders? What sort of rewards were there?
Yeah, I think even if you go right back to the mint, right, the mint proceeds that we got actually went right back to the holders through the NFT boxes drops that we've done. It was very much like the Tensorians was about gathering a community of diehard fans, and so like we didn't need the money. It was just about rewarding those people who are growing with us, basically. And since then we've had season 1, season 2, and season 3, and then obviously the rewards off the back of that. I think people are really happy about that. And as we grew as a collection, I think other protocols started to see the power of the community as almost like a beta tester community that are just really hardcore in the timeline and love testing products and getting behind them. We got gifted stuff like a few collections did. I think it was only like Mad Lads and Pudgy's got the highest like dime drop at the time. And there was other collaborations like that that quickly like catapulted us really to to one of the top collections on Solana. Obviously there was that run towards the end of last year where there was a lot more traction around NFTs. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. Like you guys will know, right? Building a collection is not easy. It hasn't been all smooth sailing. But more recently, what's been cool is the hire of Tim, who was CEO at Alpha Pharaohs. He's now a new community lead as well. So we've gone through this whole journey through the belly of the beast, if you like, born in a bear market. And yeah, it's been a great time for us to like grow together with the community and for them to support us at every step of the way. And we've been trying to reward them kind of as we go along.
Well, and people don't, we obviously know sort of from the industry side about Tensor as well. And obviously you don't just natively understand that context. From my perspective, you guys are like regarded as essentially a blue chip entity in the, call it Solana ecosystem. the platform is extremely robust. So the technical chops, associated with the team, with Ilya's leadership, and also the engineers that you have, your growing team, way bigger than 1 year ago, way bigger, legitimate technology focused startup in the crypto space, doing some really cool stuff. You guys are held in really high regard. A lot of people don't totally follow the kind of industry side of it, but I mean, this is like a very it's a growing operation with some serious technical chops underneath it and some pretty cool stuff to come for sure. So we saw like some partnerships from you guys. So there, Tensor's always been about some great NFT partnerships between Launchpad and secondary trading partners. We have some exciting partnerships coming up, right?
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, we had last week, we had the Super Base Mint with Jake and Solana Steve. They sold out entirely via that pre-sale blink. I thought that was a cool, fun different way of doing it. Yep. They're always going to be doing fun, viral things. So it's great to partner with them on the secondary on that. I guess a couple counts under the radar that people might want to follow would be Herman's and Meatbags. So that'll be at the Herman's Club and at Meatbags XYZ. Those guys are really pushing the quality and innovation bar. They're just kind of waiting on the timing side of things, but I definitely follow those accounts with noties on. They're going to do some cool things, I think. But then like stuff that's already public, I'd say Pathfinder is very, very cool to look at as well. So Pathfinders are the first 10K LST NFT collection on Solana. So those guys are pitching themselves as the first unruggable mint. And that's because they're backed by their own LST Path Soul. They're building this Studio Ghibli inspired story and IP. And they're the first launch from Lilypad, which is the LST launch pad behind them. So all of it is kind of working like NFT insurance, if you like. The NFT is backed by the LST, Path Soul, and people can exchange NFT back for LST. So that's a really interesting one to look at. I think in terms of like, if you're thinking of the innovation bucket, that's interesting and new. I haven't seen that before. It's quite exciting to us.
Absolutely. And look, the innovation side's always hard. I want to talk about the content that you guys are making, but first, we saw your Star Atlas partnership. We'd love to hear a little bit about that one.
Yeah, those guys are cooking. And obviously, if people don't already know about Star Atlas, the space exploration strategy game, they're doing some great stuff. Amazing graphics and gameplay. But yeah, we're the secondary marketplace for their crew packs drop. I believe that just happened today. So that they've done an airdrop for some of the top Solana communities. The crew packs are these unique characters. You can see there on the screen. That's a special thing that Tensor's got. So as part of the drop, Tensor's got platinum packs and they got his exclusive spaceship skin. And they're doing some really interesting stuff. So I imagine people listening are part of other top Solana communities as well. Even if you're not part of Tensorians, you can go on play.staratlas.com and you can go into your inventory and you can claim those crew packs. A really fun little activation, I guess, to get people interested and engaged with the game.
Another strong entity in the space for sure. Love to see it. Yeah. I mean, where we're at, we were just talking about it, where we're at now compared to 4 years ago really is unreal. I know 4 years sounds like a long time, but it takes a long time for this stuff to develop. It just does. It flat out does. And another 4 years is going to probably fly by, and it's going to be very interesting to see where we're at that point. You guys are focusing on content now, at least to some capacity. I know that you are very hands-on with it, which is super cool. You kicked that off with a chat with Easy, which I really enjoyed myself. What are you looking forward to for tomorrow's conversation with none other than Jake?
Yeah, that's going to be another great deep dive. I think we really looked at this and we thought, like, what can we bring that's new that we're not doing in other parts of bits of content that we're doing, maybe other people aren't doing so much. These are really like deep dives, right? With these crypto personalities, whether they're traders or content creators, like Jake. He's more of a content creator. Obviously, he's active and he's in the trenches too. And it's been great to get to know Easy and more of his story in like a longer format on live streams, which also like benefit as well from the algorithm, and X is pushing those at the moment. So that's a fun thing that gets out to loads of people. And with Jakey, I'm excited to hear the stories behind the stories, right? He's done so many different viral things recently, whether it's like Cybertruck stunts or whatever else. And we're going to get right behind like the stories behind those, behind the scenes, what happened and all of that. So it'll be fun to chat to him tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute legend, goes without saying. Look, this is for the tech heads here. This is big stuff, in my opinion. So Tensor has started open sourcing the protocol, right? And in our very first conversation with Ilya, right after we started working with you guys months ago, maybe 7-8 months ago, Ilya was talking about other things that he had built and open sourced. To me, and if Nick was here, Nick would have a lot to say about this as a software engineer himself. I'm obviously not technically easy, has a little bit of experience there. He might be able to talk about this. But to me, this is like showing, you know, the strength of somebody as a builder in software, basically suggesting this should be open source because, you know, the world can move this forward better than like an individual team can. And to me, it's like a sign of security in your skill set, your ability to build things. Can you break down what is going on here and why it's important? And to me, you know, what it kind of indicates about the leadership and the technical prowess of the folks over at Tensor.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously Tensor Labs were very, very humble beginnings, the hackathon winners, and we built Tensor.trade, and that's just one front end, right, that people know and love.
Yep.
And the exciting thing that Tensor Foundation are doing is so much bigger than just that. They're opening the doors essentially for other people to come and build on top of Tensor protocols. So other builders are going to be able to come and tap into the existing success story, you know, the existing liquidity, the community, the infrastructure. And so other people, there's loads of talented builders are going to build some crazy stuff. I know they're going to be able to ship exciting new things and be rewarded. So definitely, yeah, that thread that you showed was definitely the right thing for people to follow if they're interested in that. Follow Foundation on their X account. And at the bottom of that thread, they mentioned the upcoming grants program. So if people are interested in building and joining the Tensor ecosystem, that's probably one of the best ways to get involved. And that's exciting that we can be part of this bigger thing.
Love to see. I mean, look, ladies and gentlemen, I just don't want to understate. There's a deep level of challenge associated with finding product market fit in crypto at all. One of the paths that we've seen has proven product market fit is a marketplace, right? Which is essentially the NFT equivalent of an exchange. And we know exchanges like Coinbase and, you know, what, insert big Kraken, insert big, you know, exchange name here, have product market fit. That's what you have with an NFT marketplace. And it feels like you guys are trending in the right direction everywhere with that. And it's also nice to just see a chart that kind of looks like this in terms of growth in crypto. That's really, really nice. And it's kind of rare. We saw it with Coinbase, see it with Kraken, see it with other organizations that have been around for a long time. So I can't wait to see where you guys are at in a year, in 2 years, in 4 years. Easy. Is there anything that we missed here that you'd want to talk to Speeks about? I know you've been very hands-on talking to them, giving your perspective on things. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I can't say too much because I've been given a lot of feedback about some stuff that they've been cooking up. So I'm very, very excited for what it is Tensor's been working on, obviously.
We can hear. No,
yeah, just air it out right now in real time. Just absolutely have them just lose it on me in like an hour. That'd be great. But no, so Speaks, I do have like some things here. You guys have been doing a lot more in partnership with these launches versus actually launching them. So I think like that's the thing I'm most curious about. Instead of the launch pad, it's been in partnership. We've seen it with Superbase. We're going to see it with Herman's, potentially with Pathfinders. Just obviously Pathfinders going with the Lily pad launch pad. I'm curious what makes this in partnership kind of look like, just for the general audience when they hear in partnership with, but not launched on the launch pad. What is the audience? What should they know? How should they kind of take that information to understand what that looks like?
Yeah, so I think for like the average degen, we're still doing like all the same due diligence that we do with like our mints. It's more about like what's best for the creator, and we're seeing like more and more creators just being innovative and wanting to do things maybe in their own way. Maybe they've got exciting way to mint. Maybe it's via a Blink or something like that, and we want to be flexible with that. And so that's why you see a lot more secondary partnerships, I guess, because people want to tap into the marketing, the platform, the distribution that we can provide, as well as like maybe, you know, some other services, whether it's tech or whatever else. So it's really about us just making the right fit for these creators, what they want to do and how they want to launch. But I guess when you see something and you see, oh, it's partnered with Tensor, you know that, you know, we've got on calls with them, we've done all our due diligence with the teams. So there is a little bit of that like trust as well and that brand alignment. So you know it's going to be a great launch when we work with someone. We really try and take each launch uniquely and work out what they want to do and how they want to push things and be a bit more creative with the content side. And we're starting to play around with that a little bit there as well. So it's really about the creator basically and working out what they want. And we try and be a little bit flexible to their needs and try and work something that's best for everyone basically.
Amazing Speaks. Well, look, everyone should check out Tensor.trade. It is the only platform that I use to buy NFTs. Literally bought 3 in the past 24 hours, call it, on Tensor. The user experience is buttery smooth. I can't wait to see what comes next. You guys have made something very simple that works. These were just literally free. Looks like people are following my trade because, you know, they know that I'm the signal out here for what's going on in the NFT.
Smart money tracker, wallet trackers turned in. He's got copy traders lining up to just ape the NFT trades of the great Pio Vincenzo. I love it.
Straight up. But anyway, check out Tensor.trade. We have the link to tomorrow's show, or really just to your Twitter at Tensor_HQ on the Twitter Spaces stage. It would be cool, Ray, maybe we can show it on screen with a banner here too. Tensor.trade and at Tensor_HQ. Speaks, thanks so much for coming, man. It's always a pleasure. As usual, can't wait to see what's coming next for your organization. And just keep moving the Solana and NFT ecosystem forward, because you guys are absolutely crushing. I can't even think of anyone that's doing work as good as this on that, in that corner of our ecosystem here.
Thanks for the kind words, Pio. Yeah, I really appreciate you having us on. It's been great to work with you. So yeah, let's keep smashing it and push the space forward.
Hell yeah, Speaks. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, check out the interview with Jake tomorrow. It's going to be fun. I mean, look, Jake's stories are crazy. I can't say that I get sued for $1 million or get arrested while I'm shooting videos and stuff like that. So shout out to Jake and the folks over at Superbase. Just had their launch via Tensor. We'll be back tomorrow. We do the show Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time each and every week. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It really, really helps, guys. 40,000 plus subscribers. Come on, give us a few more. And also, of course, on Twitter, X Platform video or Twitter Spaces audio. Hit the like and hit the retweet button. Show us some support. Anyway, we will be